Welcome from the news capital of the world. You've landed on the Daily Objective from the Ayn Rand Center UK. I'm Jonathan Hoenig from capitalismpig.com. I couldn't be more delighted that you've joined us today for the Daily Objective. We come to you Monday through Friday, presenting history's largest network of programming inspired by Ayn Rand's objectivism. And you don't have to be an expert. I've studied objectivism for more than 20 years, and I'm not an expert. We're all students of objectivism. I believe that's what Miss Rand encouraged people to think of themselves as and refer to themselves as. So, we are all students of objectivism. And the fun part is that we're always learning a little bit more about it, applying it, thinking about how it impacts our lives and applying it to our lives. And, objectivism is not about winning arguments with your friend. It's about friends. It's about, improving your life on Earth, living on Earth. And that's what we try to present to you every day on all different types of topics, everything from politics to aesthetics to epistemology, ethics, and all the like. And I, as you know, often like to kind of delve a little bit off the path. So in a week when we've talked about so many issues, like the student loan forgiveness issue, the affirmative action, and a lot of other rather harder issues, if you will, or more newsy issues, we're going to talk about something today that is very dear to my heart, and I hope dear to yours as well. And if you want to show us that, you can show us in the super chat. We really need your contributions to keep this network on the air. We are completely funded by your super chats, and even more importantly, your membership. So become that monthly member, £5, £10. It's really not that much. And you are supporting all this programming that you're getting either live here on YouTube or on the podcast apps or after the fact. We've got hundreds and hundreds of shows. And we're only able to keep that coming with people like, Harry Binswanger, James Valiant, really well-known objectivist scholars that you can get one-on-one experiences with. You can ask questions to. And I even know when I was really first getting into objectivism, that certainly wasn't available at all. I was kind of like a lone guy out there hoping to get one question asked here and there. So, we're part of your philosophy posse. So become part of what we do here and start with just $2 in the super chat today, because as always, we've got a great program for you. We're going to be talking a bit about something that's close to my heart. And I think if you're a fan of Ayn Rand's, probably close to your heart as well. It's not a requirement, but if you've read The Fountainhead, you probably have a little bit of an interest or a curiosity about architecture. And Miss Rand has a lot of fascinating quotes about architecture. Here's one. In architecture, mediocrity is more glaringly obvious than in other lines because there's a huge physical object, such as a building, to demonstrate it. Now, I've lived in cities my whole life. I live in downtown Chicago now. I'm a big fan of all types of architecture. But I had to say, when this came across my Flipboard earlier this week, I didn't vomit in my mouth, but I came pretty damn close. This is a new building that just recently opened in Los Angeles, California. And for those listening on a podcast app, what you're seeing is a glass office building, maybe 25, 30 stories high, wall, floor to ceiling windows, that's almost been encased in a half brutalist assemblage of concrete forms. It is seemingly totally haphazard, haphazardaical, with windows peeking out here and there, almost like a jail that wasn't finished. Or, it's completely nonsensical. I think our audience would agree. Equal to Reality, who is one of our super chat, who's one of our YouTube members. And, that's a great way to support us. It's like £5 a month. You get highlighted priority on our chats. You get access to all the VIP stuff with James Valiant and all the rest. And you get to support objectivist ideas out there in the community, out there in the environment. So what is it, equal to reality? It is not an abomination. It supposedly is the height of new modern architecture. But when you look at this structure, what types of feelings, even from the outside, does it invoke in you? For me, it's a feeling of hostility, a feeling of tension. I mean, this building looks like it is wrapped up almost in with bands in totally haphazard way of thick concrete that is obscuring the view of the people on the inside. It almost looks like it's encased in a concrete colfat, if you will. Here's it from a side angle, and you can see on the right-hand side there there are huge concrete brutalist-esque staircases at 20, 30, 40 stories up, hanging off the side of the building, kind of begging for some creative people with a suicide wish to kind of take advantage of. The whole thing is just a very blasé concrete. I mean, again, and here's the inside. I mean, if this is the inside of this brand new structure, I mean, to me, this looks like a dark cave in which you'd want to do anything but come in and work. This looks so, to me, disharmonious, uninhabitable, unhospitable to man. It looks like a mess. Here's it from a distance. And even if you want to think about architecture as contextual, as, if you will, fitting into the environment or harmonious with the environment, I mean, this is what you would describe as a complete eyesore. I mean, it totally obstructs the horizon, not with something even, in my opinion, inspired. Now, this is not objectivism. I'm sorry, I should have put that from it. This is not objective. This is my opinion. But hopefully we're going to apply Ms. Rand's ideas and some of her themes to this application. But I should have made specific. This is certainly not objectivism. Dale on our YouTube chat says, it looks like strapping tape. Exactly. It's like concrete strapping tape. Here's the long-term view. I mean, it's just kind of a total eyesore, the sideways view. So when I look at this, again, this is not objectivism, my own perspective on aesthetics. I'm seeing dissonance. I'm seeing something that is disjointed. I'm seeing something that is disharmonious. It makes me uncomfortable to see it, let alone want to go into it. For me, this is architecture that stresses me out. It is not something that, to me, is inspirational. It looks like they're almost waiting for a time in which something's going to happen to the building and everyone's going to have to come rushing down those very dangerous looking staircases. This is architecture that almost seeks to annoy. I want to contrast that with one of my favorite buildings. I'm actually staring at it right now in downtown Chicago. It's an office building that was built literally almost 100 years earlier, and that is the very famous Chicago Board of Trade building. It's located at the south end of LaSalle Street in the heart of the financial district of Chicago. And what you're seeing here is classic, quintessential Art Deco style. I mean, this is Art Deco as it's supposed to be and as it defines the term. Close up, when we see this building, we're seeing something that's majestic. We're seeing something that is linear. The black lines in the building are kind of stressing the verticality of it. We're seeing something with order. The lines go from the bottom all the way up to the top in straight lines. All the windows are in, symmetrical order. We're seeing something that is coherent. We're seeing something that makes sense. And if you know anything about the Board of Trade, we're seeing something that celebrates the function of the building itself. The Chicago Board of Trade is known as this is the center of commodity futures trading. They basically invented the field in the late 1800s here in Chicago. So at the center of this building, you don't have like strapping tape, random concrete. You have a clock, which certainly in, around the turn of the century in the 1900s was a big thing to signify the time of day, the time of trading. And on that clock, you have these beautiful sculptures of Indians holding wheat and holding corn, again, signifying what's going on actually inside the building. Beautifully crafted, not crazy, obscure, random life forms in concrete, but something that's coherent, something with an idea, something that makes sense. In the previous office building, there's like nothing on top except concrete, blobs sticking out. The top of the Board of Trade, you have the Goddess of Grain series, no face on her. At the time, this was the tallest building in the city, and they said, who's going to ever see a building that is a woman who's 46 stories high? So, this is architecture that inspires. This is architecture that is coherent and works in any environment. This is a photo actually I took a few years ago. It's beautiful at dusk. It's even beautiful in the midst of fog. I mean, this is architecture that movies are made about. When you think about The Untouchables and Batman and all, this is Wayne Enterprises of the Batman fiction. So, this is architecture that inspires man. It's harmonious. It's coherent. It is comfortable. to me at least, it relaxes you. You don't look at this and think, oh, where does it start? Where does it go? Maybe you look at this and think, well, this is a magnificently functioning organism, beautifully working together in harmonious and inspiring elements. And was certainly very modern at the time, Art Deco was. And to me, it harkens back to Rourke's building in the Fountainhead. Here's the scene from the movie when the board at the Manhattan Bank building, remember from the book, wanted to alter Rourke's design. He rejected their proposal. Here you see them, well, that looks pretty good, but let's cover it up with the old traditional. And he said it's the most selfish thing you've ever seen a man do. So believe me, I am not arguing in favor of staid old architecture. Everything has to be Art Deco, everything has to be classical, not at all. But I am arguing in favor of coherence and more than anything, functionality to man. Something that inspires, just as I believe Rourke's original building inspired. So I have a few examples of some of my favorite architecture that I know has inspired me. I hope it will inspire you, just not only to pick up the Fountainhead, but about the whole field and craft as well. We'll start with one that is actually not even a real building. It's a building from a movie, and that is North by Northwest. It's known as the Van Damme building. No relation to Lisa, as I understand. Thank you, Bonnie, for that super generous super chat contribution of thank you for holding down the fort. I'm happy to be part of it and happy you're part of it as well. Here's that imaginary home from North by Northwest, supposedly up on Mount Rushmore, overlooking the canyons and beautiful part of the country here in America. So what you see is this Frank Lloyd Wright-esque, very linear house with huge outdoor patios and massive glass windows and very harmonious with nature. It's made out of wood, it's made out of stone, it's made out of natural materials. There's the trees right there signifying this is a home that is it's congruent with its environment. Here's the side view again, totally fiction. This isn't a real home. This is just stills from the movie. But we see a home that is warm. We see a home that is inviting. We see a home that, again, congruent with nature. There's a lot of trees there. The home is made of stone that's piled up. This is the type of home you feel like you want to go into. It inspires you to want to go be part of what's going ever on in there. Now, the movie's interiors were, of course, filmed on a soundstage, but even how they imagine the interior of the home, it looks so comfortable. It looks so warm. There's a fireplace there. It's modern, but it's not, inaccessible and too sleek. And keep in mind, this is, I believe, the late 1950s. So this was very, very modern from the time. But when you look at that architecture from North by Northwest, the Van Damme house, once again, it's harmonious. It's coherent. It works when you look at it all together, unlike the supposed new shiznit we looked at on the West Coast. This is inspired. The Los Angeles development looks like a mess. It looks like a child drew it. Designs like this are built for man. They're actually built for man, working with the natural world. Now, this is not a real, building. It was just done for a movie. But there's a lot of architecture inspired by this. One of the great things about art is I think it inspires us to go out and do great things. Man as he ought to be. And sometimes those visions become reality in real life. Here's a wonderful home from Dwell just a couple of weeks ago. Headline is, this glass cabin appears barely there on the shores of Lake Minnetonka, which I believe is a lake up in Michigan here in the States. Take a look at this just fascinating, beautiful home. It's very much in the Philip Johnson glass house style, the International Glass Pavilion type of style. Now it's a black home, so it's pretty heavy on the land. It looks like a big steel beam up at the top. So it's definitely that dark international style of steel and glass. But this is a home, as I said, harmonious. There's no line between the inside and outside. You can move very freely. It is working with the natural world. And though it's a house, it sits very lightly on that world. You don't feel like you have to peek out from your home. It's aesthetically beautiful. This is a place if you saw it out there, you'd like to come and stay. Christopher hits the nail on the head. It's integrated. it's working within the environment, and therefore it's inspiring. It makes you feel like it's something you want to be a part of. Now, if that's too big for you, there is I won't say equivalent, but I know the tiny house idea is so in vogue right now. I'm pretty much a minimalist, so I think I could theoretically get into it. And you don't even necessarily need that huge expanse of, massive amount of area to have that harmonious, in my opinion, coherent style. Here is a prefab home called the Veep. I think it's the Veep or VIP. I believe it's a Swedish design company, and this is their prefab shelter. It's set up in Sweden now. They're selling them, I think they're about $500,000 US each. They load them right in. They come basically all finished. As you can see, we're looking at a shot of the crane kind of loading in this huge, looks like basically a huge black storage box, a huge black rail car, if you will. And that is the shelter. And as you can see, this, at least on the inside, isn't so harmonious with nature. It is dark, it is black. You don't see a lot of natural materials on the inside. You see a completely glass open pavilion. I mean, this is almost like a cabin which is perched in the woods. You're on the inside in kind of a cool modern environment, and the whole world is outside of you. On the right, you can see what is described as sleeping lofts. That's actually upstairs, and you're sleeping right underneath. It's all open with those skylights. On the left-hand side, you see through the side and just a completely open nature of this structure. Now, I don't know if this is where you would want to live or could live full-time, but this, again, is, what if we had the designer from the Los Angeles piece do this? I mean, it would look like a tent that fell over. This is architecture that inspires. This is architecture that makes you want to go be in this shelter, be around this shelter. And in fact, the company, I believe, has opened a hotel featuring this design, which is selling out night after night after night. So, to me, that's what's exciting about architecture, is that integration of, nature and man working together. I don't like just camping. You just pitch a tent and that's it. I like to see man working and succeeding in nature, and his structures, congruent with nature, and in effect celebrating nature. And this certainly is a great example of that. Looking at this is the type of structure you'd want to go be part of. It's just, it's sick. What else can you say? So this is, again, there's no thing in my opinion is objectivist architecture, but to me, this is a type of architecture that shows man is here, it's working with nature, but boy, man's life is so bettered by being part of this, being in it. It's harmonious, it's coherent, it's integrated, as Christopher said, and it's anything but an eyesore like that previous piece was. Just look at the difference just on complete aesthetics alone. Now, I know it's one is basically a cabin, and one is an office building, but this is harmonious and beautiful in nature. This is, it's almost like it's like an FU in a weird way to everyone who drives by. It's almost like saying, I don't know, it seems like an affront to me. Now, I'm going to go through a few more properties. If you're like me, you're always looking at different properties. Maximus says it's a next generation prison. It completely is. It looks like a RoboCop prison. Like in just a few years, they're going to sell it, and it's going to become an evil RoboCop prison. So just who designs that and thinks this is this is an inspiring, or, this is something that makes man want to be part of it. Now, I want to show you two more that to me are just stunning. They're a little different, but they're both, ridiculous in terms of, to me, inspiring architecture. Now, we've looked at a lot of standalone homes. What about a condominium? I live in a condominium. Probably you some live in apartments and some live in condominiums, but could you imagine living one like this? And when you talk about reuse, this is a structure called the Dumbo Clock Tower. Dumbo is an area just outside New York City, just across the bridge, Roosevelt Bridge. Maybe it's not, it could be the Brooklyn Bridge, actually. It's just across the Brooklyn Bridge. And that area has become very hot, very hip in the last couple of years. And the penthouse of a very exclusive shishi building in this area has been on the market and finally sold, for $15 million just a few years ago. And if you want to talk about working with the environment and inspiring architecture, look at this, just ridiculously sick apartment. And what you're seeing, if you're listening on our podcast apps, you're seeing a big, wide open, white, modern, clean space with a beautiful kitchen and all the modern furniture. And this is an actual photo too. This isn't a CGI. Looking out from the interior of the clock tower, the actual clock tower of an old clock tower building. So they have kept and maintained. So you are peering out from the inside of where all the guts of the machinery used to be. So your windows in this amazing structure is that clock tower. And I'm told, I don't know if it's still the case, but the hands do move. So there is an element of like reality in terms of it's as a functioning clock tower. But to me, it's just an incredible, inspiring piece of architecture. Livable. I mean, you could certainly have a wonderful meal there. I could certainly have a wonderful bath. I'm a city guy, so as much as too I love nature, I think that same exhilaration in architecture and space and design can be felt in cities as well. I mean, can you imagine having a tub and overlooking, the Hudson or Statue of Liberty or whatever body of water that is, in this completely unusual and inspiring place, and outdoors as well. I mean, here's the penthouse, that top open air area. I mean, again, this is architecture that inspires. This is architecture that when you see, you say, oh, I want to go be part of this. I want to go see what's going on in there. I mean, this is, I believe a number of rap videos were actually filmed here when it was being shopped around, which makes sense because it's magical in a weird way, this type of use of space. And what you're seeing in the middle there is a huge glass elevator that goes up the entire length. I believe it's a triplex of this massive, massive apartment. So for me, it's just that celebration of old and new in a new way that is completely luxurious and exhilarating for man. I mean, how about this for your Shabbos dinner? You're looking at a huge, long table right underneath. You get a sense of the scale and the size of those clock towers. Clock tower faces look like they're 7, 8, 9 feet across. If this isn't ridiculously inspiring to you, I don't know what is. Now, it's a little bit out of my price range at 15, even 14, 13, $9 million, but I just think it's a wonderful example of architecture that's exciting. It's historical and modern. I think there's always this argument in architecture. Well, is to be something that's new or something that's old. This is historically and it's modern all at once. It's inspired by its context, but it's built for man. I mean, who wouldn't love to go and be in this magical clock tower, exploring it, seeing the city from these different views? Contrast that with the interior of that office building. I mean, is this working within the natural world? This underground cave is just like, why? And what, how does that make anyone feel anything? Now, I'm going to leave you with one more. And before I do, I'm going to appeal one more time for a few super chats. That's what keeps us on the air day after day after day. So even if you've never done a super chat before, start with just a 99-cent super chat. That is probably money you have in your pocket right now. You don't have, it's certainly less than you'd probably pay for a cup of coffee. So take this opportunity to thank those in the UK who are keeping this programming on and expanding it and doing live events all over Europe. We are only able to do it because of your support and we need it. So thank you for hitting us up on the super chat, becoming a monthly member, sharing and liking. We need it, literally £5 at a time. So I'm going to leave you with one more, I think, extraordinarily magical piece of architecture. And it's all the way from Japan, and it's known as the Stairway House. This house was, I think, kind of released a couple of years, maybe 5, 6 years ago, and this got a lot of attention. And how can it not? I mean, what you're looking at is a 3-level home that is completely bisected by a massive stone staircase that seems to start on the outside and big steps like that a giant almost would step on. And this staircase goes right through the side of the building, the glass side of the building, all the way up through the building. And how can you not look at this and think, what the heck is this? I mean, just the look of it. It's open, it's curious, it's inspiring, it's a staircase leading up. Again, just contrast this to the previous architecture that we saw, the office building in LA. I mean, this is architecture that you'd fight to go and see, like want to see what's going on. And thank you, Equal to Reality. He says it's a great show. Well, thank you for being part of it. Thank you for being part of our philosophy posse. Super, super appreciate it. And in fact, Equal to Reality is gifted an Ayn Rand Center membership, which is so important. And exactly, that's what's keeping all this content on the air. Harry Binswanger, Don Watkins, Rucka Ali, yours truly, and so many more. We've got new stars, Amanda Maxim, Megan Ribbons. I mean, just got smart people in objectivism, James Valiant. So it's, again, £5 at a time that lets us do it. So thank you so, so much. And welcome Florida Nick. He is a new member of the Ayn Rand Center UK. So this house is obviously ridiculous. The staircase is completely non-functional. Well, I shouldn't say it's not functional, but it's actually not a staircase that you use to even get in the house. So there's something just magical about this house to begin with. And in fact, the house is entered through the side of that staircase. You can see right before the home itself. I think I have a photo of it. You enter in front in the staircase, but you go through the staircase. You don't actually walk up those huge stairs. But look at the impressive visual of this staircase that goes all the way down and leads down this very straight street. So there's something about that, as was mentioned before, it's integrated. This whole notion of the staircase is integrated into the format of the whole house itself. So it gives it this sense of openness and the sense of longevity and this, you're not closed in here. It's something that to me is just inspired. Now on the inside, you can see the staircase becomes a functional place to put things. Oh, here's the entrance. You can see here's the side entrance. That's where you actually go in. So you go in through the side of that entrance. That's the real entrance. So there's something just whimsical about it. Equal Reality says he doesn't like it. All right, look, this one is certainly the furthest out there. But in terms of architecture's ability to inspire, to feel like it's something magical, to feel like it's something exciting, and to rouse your soul, if you will. Look, it's functional. And as you can see, the idea or the way it's used by the homeowners is that the stairs on the inside are used for their plants. It's just on the southern axis, I suppose, it gets all the sun. So there's the dining room and you've got your plants coming in, and the staircase is that visible element in every element of the room. There you see it from the downstairs. It's like the den. I assume at some point you get a little more livable furniture in here. I don't know. I don't see a beanbag chair, but I assume at some point you have to have a chair you can lay down in. But it's that consistency, and there's a harmony with nature here. There's a beauty, there's a whimsy, and I don't know, maybe I'm projecting too much, but there's an aspiration here. I mean, this is a staircase that goes straight up into the heavens, if you will. So whether or not you like it or not, you have to admit there's an idea here. It's coherent. There is a beautiful idea that carries through. This isn't, that Los Angeles concrete slab just planted down in this ugly form with no rhyme or reason. One of Rand's quotes is that a building has integrity just like a man and just as seldom. So maybe take this opportunity to look at some of the buildings around you, look at some of the structures around you, be a little conscious of that. Think about what you like, what you don't like, and why. And while you're doing that, read Ayn Rand. Pick up The Fountainhead especially. I mean, it takes place with an architect. And I think if you're a fan of architecture at all or curious about architecture, it will truly inspire you in so many ways. As it continues to inspire thousands and thousands of readers now, 60 some years after its publication. So thank you for being part of what we do. We're here Monday through Friday with the Ayn Rand Center UK. I'm Jonathan Hoenig from capitalspig.com, and we're only able to do it because of your super chats and support. Bringing you this original programming. Again, this is information that's inspired by objectivism. We want you to go pick up Ayn Rand. We want to be part of that journey. We want to be part of that curiosity, and that's what we do. So thank you for being part of what we do. John says he's an architectural designer. He's been waiting for architectural design related content to show up from an objectivist perspective. Would love to see more. Thanks for this. Well, look, student of objectivism here, John, and thank you for that. There's one other show I did a couple years ago or a couple months ago now called "Is This Art?" Concerning a huge art installation that was put up in the desert in the last couple of years. So you might want to check that out as well on the channel. But we're going to have more and more programming about aesthetics, about architecture, art design. But we can only do it with your support. So hit us up with £5, £2, 3 shekels, 20 shekels. It really means a lot. We've got kind of a ragtag group of young people all over the globe who help put this on day after day after day. And if it looks easy, it's not. And the fact that we were able to keep this programming going with people, professionals such as myself, none of which are paid. All the money goes to help keeping, the mothership, if you will, the leader, Arazi, and his team going. So thank you for being part of that. Bonnie says, thanks, Jonathan. The last one was rather interesting rather than disgusting like the first. Isn't that is? I mean, there's a benevolence about the ones that we looked at. The first one, this is my opinion, that first one, there's a malevolence about it. It's almost like modern art. It's almost giving you the thumbs up and sneering at you. The others we looked at, in my opinion, their harmony with nature, their harmony with man, their whimsy and aspiration and excitement just suggests such a benevolent attitude that I know man is capable of, and I believe that Ayn Rand celebrates in her work. Thank you for being with us this week. We're back Monday with a brand new daily objective. From all of us at the Ayn Rand Center UK, it's Jonathan Hoenig. Thank you. Share, like, subscribe. Have a great weekend, and we're wishing you best premises. Be well.